Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning to you all. It seems like, what's wrong? You don't have bundle? Huh? The free internet is not working? Yeah, the one in this place is working. I know for some of us, we are still waiting for that one that is supposed to be all over Kampala. Don't worry, hopefully by end of today, we'll be told at what time that internet can be accessed. My name is Iguma Gabriel. Everybody here was given a bit of a bio. I wasn't, which means that I am the least experienced person on the panel. That's why I will be the one asking the questions. Yeah, and in a very short while, we'll also come to you for you to also ask questions to these that are seated here. But I'd like to do a small survey as we start. How many of us present, and I am told adults do not like putting their hands up, but I am still going to ask these adults to put their hands up. How many people present have ever had their accounts taken over and people try to extort money from others? Please put your hand up if it has ever happened to you. 1, 2, 3, eh? No, it can happen to anybody. Your account can be taken over and they try to to extort money from people. Therefore, this is a key discussion we're having on a resilient and united digital inclusion for all Ugandans. Is it achievable? Well, our panelists will tell us in a very, very short while. You have had the profiles of our panelists, and I have other microphones for the panelists. I'd like for each one of them to just, let us know their perspective on this topic based on where they sit. All right? You've heard where they are from, Innovation Village, UCC organization. And I think we'll take the microphone to the extreme end and then it will come this way. For each one of us to just, give our view from where we're situated on, our topic, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you, Masters. Thank you, Moderator. The topic of resilient and united digital inclusion is something that is pertinent for all of us. And from where I sit, it's at two different levels. One is from a policy standpoint. Is our government deliberate as we create policies? These policies deliberate on ensuring that no one is left behind. That is one. Every other thing that plays within this ecosystem. So the technologies, connectivity, all that, how that all then plays out in terms of affordability. Are these services affordable for people to enjoy them? The skills and knowledge that are required. My mother is 70 years old. I got her a smartphone 2 years ago, and it was a struggle. It was a real struggle. She told me at her age, she doesn't see any reason why. She has a phone that doesn't have buttons, and it was a struggle. And we started from a feature phone, then we moved to a smartphone, and you walk her through the journey. Say, you know what, if you need to send me a WhatsApp message, this is where you start. If you need to load bundles, this is how you do it. And that keeps going on, because right now, even when she needs, say, help with an application on the phone, she tells me I have to walk down to someone who runs a mobile money shop so that they can help me figure out certain things. But how do we bring all those classes of people to the appreciation that these technologies are meant to make their lives easier and not to make it harder? Safety and security. You spoke about our accounts being taken over. We've seen in the recent past all these stories about mobile money being hacked and so on and so forth. how do we build the confidence in the people using these services that indeed they can use them safely and are not walking on eggshells while they are using them. Of course, then there's access. Yeah, if my parents that are in Kaberamaido need to access internet, do they easily access it? Do they easily access these services? Are they able to log on? Are they able to get online? And then finally, relevance. I should be able to use a service because it's relevant to me, not because I am forced to use it. So from where I sit, those are the different areas that I'll be looking at.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I am still trying to understand how Bamwesigye is from Kabaramaido, but anyway, internet everywhere. You say your mother is 70 and she, you got her a smartphone and she just couldn't understand it. My mother is 72. She visited recently and she came with a clear demand that she also wants a smartphone so that she can see the things that we see. And if you can just record that first part of what you said, it's hard for them to use it. For me to tell my mother so that I first give her a feature phone, then I get a smartphone later. But no, she's convinced she's going back to the village with it, and I have no choice. I'll give it to her. Yes, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Yes, my name is Japheth. I work with the Innovation Village. I'm delighted to be here with you this morning, and I'd like to thank Lillian for convening this conversation, mostly because the conversation we're having is a representation of the economy of the future. And when I say economy of the future, I don't mean it in the context of years from now. I mean it in the context of right now, the opportunities that we're exploring. From where I sit, it's really, I look at myself as an entrepreneur, and our core work is around building platforms for entrepreneurs to scale the businesses they're also building. The internet is the single equalizer for opportunities for us all, that any person anywhere across these lands can build something and compete with anyone across anywhere in the world. I don't have to have gone to any other country to be able to compete at a global scale, as long as I'm able to build something that is solving problems for people and is creating value. So a lot of the work that we do from where we are coming from is how do we increase this opportunity space for entrepreneurs, but how do we increase this opportunity space for communities, especially those that may also be underserved, the mother you're talking about. How do we ensure they are not left behind in this digital economy or revolution that we are trying to unlock? And how we approach that is mostly two ways. We work with entrepreneurs who build solutions, and we are confident that these solutions are growing to become the companies of tomorrow, but are also, and we employ to them that these need to be solving also the problems of the excluded communities. And of course, we all know about how entrepreneurial the country is, how we don't have enough jobs for all the young people leaving universities. So in reflection of the theme, it's really about what is it going to take for us to build strong competitive companies that are competing with our neighbors and so many other countries out there. And like a young friend I have normally says, ultimately, increase the GDP of the internet, because we're able to build companies that are resilient, that are competing, that are attracting investment for, and then go on to solve problems and also create employment. So we don't just come from the perspective of looking at the opportunity, we also begin to understand what then can we begin to do to translate this opportunity into tangible impact, into actual results that can be seen, understood, and interacted with. But I'll share more as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Japheth. And we know that you've supported many entrepreneurs to put, solutions online. And considering that this is the 8th of November, and people are wondering when salary day will come, I know one of those companies you've helped. It's called Zofi Cash. They give you a salary advance immediately. Yeah, some of you might want to try that one. Yes, the only lady on the panel.
Thank you. So I'll start off by saying inclusion means a lot to me because I'm a mother of daughters. I have 2 daughters, both 12. They have different backgrounds. So one was exposed really early to the internet, maybe like from 2. The other one much later, I would say about 7 years. Uneducated background and all of that. But when I look at them now, 5 years on, they are very good with, they are developing applications. They are helping us at Zimba Women to train women. And then but I can't use my example as a yardstick because what? Much as they are women or they are the future women, they are part of the urban, I would say, urban middle class. So their example cannot be used as a yardstick to compare with and say women have internet access or girls have internet access. So, I mean, that's where the disparities come in when you're talking about inclusion. I'm a co-founder of Zimba Women. We train women on how to use the internet to grow their businesses, like IT training, business training, social media training, good use of the internet, basically. I am also a gender and digital transformation specialist with UNDP in New York, working with different countries to make sure that initiatives countries are implementing at global level are relevant and also useful to women, and making sure that use of the internet does not cause harm, but is for good. Sometimes you implement a solution that is supposed to help people, but you're marginalizing the other people, or you're making their situation even worse. COVID did that to us. We encourage use of digital. A lot of our women say using digital initiatives within their the way they do their businesses, they sold. But then those who had no access to the internet, those who could not afford, their businesses collapsed and made their already financial situation much worse. So the divide got bigger. So when I think about inclusion, for me, I look at the aspect of diversity. Are we including people from different backgrounds? Because that's also a big deal. It's not just men and women. I look at equity. Do we have access to fair opportunities? Is it fair in how we use the internet? So inclusion is a lot of all those factors, not just men and women, but also backgrounds. How about men in the villages? You may say women have less access to the internet, less internet penetration, less internet use by women, but that's generalization. I have access to the internet. I'm a computer engineer, so I don't struggle with that. So how about the urban poor? Because you could say people in the urban areas have access to the internet, but you're not considering that maybe they can't afford it. Much as the connection is very good, it's very fast, they can't afford it. And then how about the rich in the village who are in areas where the internet penetration is not very good? So the variables are very many. So when I think about inclusion, I consider all those factors and how they affect the, the population in general.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Some important information here. I am also a father of daughters, 2 daughters. And we should start a club. Yes, they put the journalists near me. I don't know why. I hope it's not that I take the microphone away from you when you go over time. But sir, please. He's actually my boss.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Robert Ssempala. I work with the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda. And about the topic, I am thrilled by the fact that we are talking of digital inclusion for all Ugandans, like Bonava Gagawale. I don't know if that is realistic and it's going to be achievable, but I'm happy about the beginning point of resilience. where we say, okay, there are going to be gaps, but we have to be very resilient in order to achieve it for all Ugandans, digital inclusion for all Ugandans. Our parents, when we talk about digital inclusion, we normally talk about the young people, the youth. But I'm happy that at least two of the people in front here are talking about their mothers who are learning and struggling to adapt to, these technologies. But your relief is in the fact that we have a state minister of ICT who is equally there, Honorable Joyce Sebugwao. She can be relief for them. You say, one in your age bracket is there. So you have to believe in yourself and be equally digital compliant and fit in there. But from where I sit, the journalists, the media, certainly this is home for us, going digital, and we saw it a lot during COVID, when journalists continued working, but in the virtual spaces. And I think that for me opened the eyes for all of us that we want to be more physical in this country than being digital, even where I think we can be virtual. Literally, you have a phone call, a smartphone, but you call people to say, I'm coming to see you. Yet you can even connect virtually using those gadgets. I do not know if that is going to support our bid for all Ugandans, where you have people working with their smartphones, their gadgets literally, to go and be physical and don't make the best use of these gadgets. So our journey is long, but I know it can be achieved in this effort. Also, the fact that connectivity is still very low. We have to really struggle to connect all Ugandans. It's going to be a very, very rough and long walk to inclusion for all Ugandans. But I know that with such talk, we can get there sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you had to bring in some politics. Well, thank you for reminding me that we have a virtual audience. There are people who are participating in this conference virtually. We recognize your presence, and we'll have somebody monitor the chat room just in case you have any questions or comments. We will not leave you out because we acknowledge that, that's another way, a very actually cost-effective way of attending to such, important meetings. I'd like to come back to you, Mr. Bamwesigye from UCC, on if a common thread that, a common thread in what everybody said is, if I could pick two things, affordability and access. And you know that, as part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, governments committed to strive for universal and affordable access to the internet for the least developed countries by the year 2020. That was 2 years ago. And also to deal with the issues of, exclusion. And at that point, commitments were made, to gender and, to deal with the issues that were excluding, especially women. What progress have we made as a country? Because that's important, if we are to realize our theme for this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Indeed, the impressions. Internet is no longer it's a risky program, and government is very much aware of that needs. And if you look at government, the many clients part of them is the national government. And this idea is to ensure. And it's deliberate that even as we license new telecom operators, or even as we renew their licenses, the back of our minds, we want to ensure that all areas of the country are served. It is one of their licensing obligations, and it's enshrined within our policies. But on top of that, we are also ensuring that through either partners or through government programs, that areas where, say for instance, a telecom company ordinarily wouldn't invest because they wouldn't make as much profit from there, that we are able to then put points of presence in those areas to ensure that the people who are around those areas are able to also be connected. So the commission has a program called the Universal Communications Access Fund. And through that fund, what we do is for for underserved areas, we ensure that at least there is a presence that is brought to those areas in terms of connectivity to ensure that people within those areas are connected. But also there are different programs that range from supporting schools, supporting universities, supporting communities. In some cases, we have community centers where we have put up labs and so on, where people can come and obtain certain digital skills, use the internet free of charge. So I think we are making all the interventions possible to ensure that this happens, both as government and as partners that are also supporting us in this cause.
Right. Just 3 days ago, I was in Bugweri, 3 kilometers away from the main road. I called a lawyer. I needed to send him a document. And I explained to him, you will receive the document when I come back onto the main road where there is internet. Because whereas I had, I could call him, you know how you go to a place and you can see it moves from 4G to H. No. This one did not have internet at all. And it didn't matter where you walked. And, this engagement we were having was at a school. This is just 2 kilometers from the main road. And this is a school. Even as government talks about, and government has received loans, received grants in order to extend this backbone. And I'm not talking about last year, talking about, for a couple of years. Are we really, and we hear this commitment from government in words, is it really happening on the ground? Because, it is one thing, to say it is another to actually deliver, these services to the people.
Yes, I know it is happening, but obviously it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. Gradually, we're onboarding schools, we're onboarding communities. So it is happening. It is indeed happening, but I know that it will not happen overnight, but it's happening.
Is there something UCC can do to get the service providers to, because I could make phone calls? What's the complication? Because if I can make a phone call in a place, how come you can give me voice, but you can't give me data in a particular place?
Well, like I said, as part of the broadband policy is to ensure that all these things happen. And indeed, UCC is ensuring that that's happening with the operators. And part of the things that we do constantly is to also go out in these areas and have that experience on our own. So that when we're coming back to the operators, we are coming from a point of knowledge to a point of showing them that, we have been in these areas and it's not happening. But yes, we're deliberate about that happening. It's even enshrined within the licensing obligations of operators.
All right. If I could go to your neighbor, Japheth, who is famously known as CK. For entrepreneurs, this is really about money. Could you just explain to us, what needs to be done so that there's maximization of what can be gotten from that backbone as a way of also dealing with this issue, one, unemployment, but also, the fact that as a country, we desperately need to be making more money, bring more money into the coffers as an incentive, for a speed up for these technologies to be taken countrywide.
Thanks for that question. I think and this is some of the learning we're beginning to do. It's not just about the money. It is more about how we are solving problems, but also importantly, how we are creating value. And I keep telling a lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with, and it's a statement I probably repeat on every panel I sit, that money doesn't flow to those who need it. It flows to those who create value for it. So what we're trying to enable entrepreneurs do is, how valuable is what you're creating? Is it solving the most pressing challenges for society, for businesses, for communities? I was just sitting there with my friend Chakara, the CEO of Milima Technologies. He's into, and the basic premise being, if your company is solving the cybersecurity problem now, then that will translate ultimately into the money. But speaking to what then needs to be done, I think we begin to look at the ecosystem of who's doing what and how do we get them to contribute the way ideally they should. We have a number of items on the table. We struggling with items around policy. How do we build a policy environment that can incentivize entrepreneurs, or can incentivize people who want to invest in entrepreneurs? And then how do we get the private sector also playing in a more constructive way for the benefit of the industry they're in, but also to unlock opportunities for entrepreneurs? At the moment, where we see more of things around CSR, where they'll give a jerry can or two, but there's such a thing as corporate venturing, where they're able to partner up with a disruptive entrepreneur, and that will unlock innovation at scale. On the table, we also have items around capital. How can we get the right type of capital for entrepreneurs that will incentivize, but also reward them as they hit growth milestones? Not just a grant. Actually, a grant may have adverse effects for a typical entrepreneur who's building your typical company. So those are a number of items, and we appreciate a lot of work has been put into this. We're having this conversation. I'm aware at the Kololo grounds, there's currently the National Science Week. The week after there's Uganda Innovation Week. There's a lot of conversation going. So progress has been made, and what we are hoping, also from the government is to ensure that environment is more enabling, because traditionally government is looked at as a fixer. So if we have internet as a problem, then the government is going to fix that. But not quite. Also because the problem that we're trying to solve for is big. So we need to begin to understand alternative ways for how we can solve same problem. Can come from policy, can come from enabling private sector, incentivizing private sector to go after problems that are traditionally known to be fixed by government, such that we accelerate the rate at which we are growing the opportunity and unlocking it for our young country.
All right. Earlier on, you spoke about, the support that you give to entrepreneurs and, to innovators as, a way of creating jobs over here. But we're also aware that, this is a huge opportunity for Ugandans to work for companies that are not, domiciled here. Over the weekend, I met a young man who works for a company in California. And that means he starts work at about 3 p.m. and works late into the night because, why? Because he's a software engineer, and as long as he's meeting his deliverables, And one of the things he said is, the advantage he has is when it hits around midnight, 1 a.m., he's got good internet. But for particular days, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. is a proper nightmare for him because, there are things he needs to get done and he might be in meetings and drop off the meetings many times. What opportunities lie there? And, what do we miss if we do not harness them now?
I think a single opportunity that I see there is how do we democratize? How do we have more young people who can speak like that? All the young people that are leaving university, how do we ensure that we're building the skills enough for them to be able to compete at a global stage? And apart from the skills, how are we positioning Uganda as a destination for talent like that? I'm aware of the work the government is doing around BPO and outsourcing, but it comes down most to the positioning of the opportunity, because he's one of a potential 1,000 doing that. Now, the deliberateness of approaching that as an opportunity means that we'll begin to create the conditions that can make them competitive and can unlock opportunities for them. But I think
forever.
we're beginning to see many more as the next opportunity for them. If you ask him, where did you get this opportunity from? It will probably be on the internet, but then how do we ensure that there are opportunities for thousands like him, and especially targeting young women who also have the different skills. So we need to work on the deliberateness of expanding opportunities for young people. And I'm happy it's already beginning to happen with many others doing the same thing.
All right, thank you. Well, Peace, as we speak about resilient and united, digital inclusion, we know that, when it comes to cost and access, there's a disparity, between the effects for the genders. As you speak to that, why is this even important to look at when we're talking about something like internet? Because, some people think now this is really splitting the hairs. Good internet equals good internet. Doesn't matter, men, women, and yet the figures seem to say something else. Why is this an important lens to put on, even as we have these discussions of inclusion and, united digital inclusion?
Yeah, so we cannot talk about inclusion and then leave out the fact that it's men and women, because access to opportunities is different. Access to education is also different. You find that right from school, even the number of women who are enrolling in the tech space is much less than the women enrolled than men. Then in use of internet, a lot of internet use is governed by access to money. Who has the more money, who can afford the internet? So a lot of the women, whether in rural and urban areas, get the money that they use for the internet from maybe their husbands, brothers, fathers. So it's these women get a percentage of that income. So the person who decides how much to give is the one who dictates how much internet they have, meaning that that person probably has a lot. They're already like 10% ahead of you by the time you start using the internet. The independent women, the women who have access to their own money or have access to employment or businesses that support their use of internet are the minority compared to those who rely on somebody else paying for that. So that conversation is also very important. Another factor to think about is that in the rural areas, a lot of the women are not even employed. So meaning the internet device that they use to access the internet is probably owned by the man. So if he owns the phone, or maybe at the smallest level, if he owns the television, it means that he decides when I use it. So that also puts you like a little bit behind that, or even like social norms, because if it relies on the man, then you have to wait your turn. And that puts the women at a disadvantage. So that conversation is very important, because when it comes to government, international organizations, and even civil society, or I would say SMEs or private sector, in offering support, there's need to put particular emphasis on not just rolling out a digital platform, but ensuring that the people who need to use the digital platform have access to the internet and can afford it. So let's say I'm rolling out an e-commerce site, say Jumia, that needs to be used by everybody. Yes, it will be out there. It will be amazing. It will do all these good things. But then how do you ensure that the percentage of women who are left behind by this are able to use it? This would mean maybe going out to schools, talking to the kids at this early age about use of the internet, benefits of the internet, going out to the markets and approaching women and offering them that option. So it's not just like, the cost factor also includes access and also awareness. Am I willing to spend my money on this if I'm not aware that it's beneficial to me? So that's how I'd look at it.
All right. I came across an interesting term. It now, I can't find it, but I think it was something. Oh, yes. Gender-based violence, that's targeted towards women online, which is now being called technology-assisted violence against women and girls. And we will hear about it a little later as we speak, particularly gender. But how does this manifest? How do we deal with it, as a way of ensuring that, everybody on the internet is safe, and particularly the women and the girls?
Yeah, so among the factors that cause the digital divide, aside from access and accessibility, is also online safety. Online safety has been an issue for a lot of women because it manifests in two ways. One, the safety of our information online, and probably because we're not aware of what information to share. So some people may overshare, some people may not have the right passwords. And also, much as the information is there, it's similar to what everybody has, but women are particularly targeted. Our society is very harsh to women, and there's very little implications to those actions. And a lot of bullying, unfortunately, comes from the males. There's a lot of cyberbullying, in as far as just general information posted by women, pictures posted by women, targeted to these women's children. So because of this, it has reduced I would say the use of the internet by women. So if the government had in place ethical guardrails, I think it comes from like a more of a policy angle. What policies are there to protect women, policies and laws to protect these women as they use the internet? What are we putting in place as implications of actions of people who leak other people's information, not just pictures, but also data? Somebody hacks into your account, leaks your photos or leaks your documents. So because we don't have a very specific way this is handled, a lot of the cases you've had women go and report, it blows over and they just tell the women, you know what, wait maybe 1 month or 2 months, something else will come up in the news, which is unfortunate because then others will be scared. Part of our social interaction involves like use of e-commerce. So a lot of the women that we work with, the Zimba women, use Facebook for both selling products online, but also for entertainment. But if one of the two, because they work together, I'm on Facebook, I'm selling my products, but I'm also finding information, I'm learning, I'm bettering myself. And at the same time, maybe I'm posting my own personal information. If in one way I'm affected by that platform and I don't see a protection mechanism in place, I'll stop using that platform. So it will affect my access to the information I was getting. It will affect my business and everybody else around me who I support.
All right. I don't know how you're going to explain to Michael that you and the women are using Facebook. But anyway, we will get there on rights, the Human Rights Network for Journalists. What rights issues come up, from the situation we are in? As we want to promote resilience, we want to promote digital inclusion. What rights issues come up there, and how do we mitigate them so that, yes, there's full enjoyment of digital rights?
Thank you indeed very much. It's extremely key to look at the rights issues when we're trying to interest everybody to go digital. And from my perspective as a media rights entity, we see lots of concerns coming from journalists and users who are already online. We know that certainly there are offenses that stem out of usage of the digital platforms, like cyber stalking, offensive communication, offending, so on. So, and these are looming around the necks of so many users. It's been a concern of so many Ugandans now with the advent of the amendments within the Computer Misuse Act. And many people might even fear to really make best use of these platforms. Because previously you'd really feel that you can use different digital platforms to disseminate information, collect it, disseminate it, and people will give you honest views about everyone around. Today, they're going, but even giving information for fear of what is likely to come out as a result for using these platforms. And I really see now many people going back to capability use capability phones as opposed to smartphones. Yet, in order for us to entrench digital platforms and inclusion, you really think that we should be interesting so many people to carry smartphones. But today, people have their well-known phones, which are smartphones, and then they will have others hidden in their jackets, which they used to call Iguma. Say, this is what I have. And that for me is a crowback in terms of making good progress. But I'm thrilled by the fact that NITA, as Arnold told us, they're embarking on a campaign of Be Safe Online, so that people can really feel safe and use these platforms. And also trust issues are going to come up a lot. Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to give this information about? If they think it is unsolicited, if they think it is unauthorized access, a lot of those things will come up. And for me, they will have a very dire negative effect on our campaign to include everybody in a digitalization campaign. But also looking at issues of access. When you go in the countryside, you certainly will not be able to access these platforms as we would do in these centers. Maybe at some point, we would recommend that there are so many hotspots for Wi-Fi in the rural communities so that people can congregate and partake of what we are enjoying down here in Kampala. Because if we think that we're going to have penetration within those areas, and then access is very hard, we even mocking these people, and they think that we're not even doing enough to, after all this long, that we still are grappling with issues of connectivity and access. Then the gaps within the regulatory frameworks, which have left so many crooks, freeze people of their money, like she said, hack into your platforms and then lay bare your information. There are trust issues, and that's a rights issue because we're entitled to our privacy. But if somebody is going to expose you with content that was meant for Gabriel, who is a father of two, and somebody who is a mother of two, and then it becomes public information, the trust issues will really be of concern here. They will fear to use these gadgets, so they will choose to be physical. Say I'm walking to you to talk to you instead of sharing my little picture with you for you to see how I'm dressed today or how I'm not dressed today, issues like that. So it's, for me, another concern as a rights issue. So we have to deal a lot with digital safety and security. Once we have made good inroads in that area, you're very sure that people are going to be encouraged in joining all these platforms. And those that are trying to run away from them will still come back. At our workplace, each of us has now bought a capability. yet we have smartphones, but each of us has to say, if you're calling so-and-so, if you're talking to so-and-so, be sure you're not using this phone. This is the official now channel of communication. And going by just our little office, you see that it's going to have issues with this campaign of spreading digital inclusion across the globe for all Ugandans, this matter. And finally, when you look at what the content that's being generated and what is really true and the regulators can say is acceptable information, is so amorphous that nobody is there to really draw a very good defining line. So people are too scared. Is this rightful information? Can I share? Is this good information? Can I disseminate it? Is this good information? Can I respond to it like a way of giving feedback? So in that area, I think we have to do a lot with making safety for all these online platforms and users.
Thank you very much. Time will not allow for us to go into issues of disinformation and misinformation. I'd like to come over to the floor for any questions or comments, but I'm also mindful that Mr. Bamwesigye, you may want to respond to a thing or two that came up in relation to, policy, regulation, and implementation of what already exists. But if you don't, we can take questions. All right. He says, let's take questions. Any questions and comments? Let's use about 5 minutes for that. Just shoot your hand up. We will get a microphone to you. All right. 1, 2, 3. Any others? 1, 2, 3. I see those 3 hands. Can somebody come and help me move a microphone? In the afternoon, we will have a panel that will focus on gender. But we want to be inclusive. So I'd like a lady's hand to go up at least before I finish with the questions. There's a gentleman over there, the one behind him, then one on this side. Please let us know who you are, since we did have a round of introductions at the beginning.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Isofil. I work at Cyber Technologies. My question is about the digital inclusion. The internet penetration is moving so fast in the youth. However, the content that is going to the audience is not so much important to the country. Like if you can go online on Twitter, what trends within the youth is not so meaningful as how internet adoption could be. We have very many startups that are coming up with products, but the population, the people that would adopt these applications, they spend their time on Twitter, TikTok, using generating content that may disrupt other people from using the devices what they are meant to do. So as I call upon organizations such as the Internet Society of Uganda, how can you channel these people that are generating content and using more of Twitter for other content that is not related to the development of this country, to present them use of these devices by adopting the applications that are being brought by these startups? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. That question was on content, and I think we'll have 2 or 3 people here that can respond to that. If we could give the microphone to the gentleman in front of him, and then we'll go to the gentleman on this other side.
Good morning. My name is Justin Mwanje. I am a member of the Uganda Forestry Association and a retired forestry officer. You've mentioned specific underlying causes which are hindering innovation and inclusion in Uganda. How could internet governance in Uganda help to address those underlying causes? The second question is about the demographic dividend that we have in Uganda. That's a positive indicator. It's a positive sign, definitely. How could internet governance in Uganda help to harness that dividend. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Gentleman over this side.
Thank you very much. My name is Marvin. I work for the Council for Science and Technology. My question possibly is specific to Mr. Bamwesigye. A topic here is inclusion, but from a policy perspective, how are Ugandans able to afford the platforms and the devices that allow them access the internet? Because we're going to put up all this infrastructure to wherever they can get to. But if Ugandans are not empowered to afford the devices that help them access the internet, then I think our efforts might not yield the desired fruit. So from the position of government, what is it doing to ensure that affordability? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any other hand? We have a gentleman here. I'm going to be very uncomfortable if we finish the questions without having a lady. Okay, the MC decided to go to his friend. Okay, friend of the MC, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Jerome Okot. I work with Milima Security.
Sorry, we didn't catch your name.
Jerome. I work with Milima Security. Some know us as Milima Technologies. This goes straight to Mr. Bamwesigye and Mr. CK. There is very amazing opportunities being created. Government is also doing a great deal, but there is a very small concern as an entrepreneur. Government is the biggest spender in some of these initiatives. I could have missed the point, but I heard something about corporate venturing. Or is there any way the private sector is merging with the government to implement some of these things? Because I think this could be a way to speed up these processes. We're dreaming and growing very fast, but it seems like in the private sector, we're trying to move faster than government, who has the ability to cushion us and fund us to even move further some of these ideas. So what's going on exactly between the private sector and the government?
All right, thank you. And if you could just add to that, government policy that, kind of threatens private sector from making huge investments because of the fear, I invest very heavily. Some of these policies will mean that I cannot recoup because private sector, is looking to make a profit. All right, there's a hand over here. I am still waiting for a lady's hand. I am in trouble here. Thank you. Thank you. You have liberated me. In fact, let's have the microphone go there first, and then it will come to you. Sir, I am not stepping on your rights in any way.
Thank you. My name is Asia Kamukama from Maendeleo Foundation. We promote digital literacy in communities. One of the things that I've seen through my life that hinders inclusion is the low literacy levels, especially in rural areas. And as much as we are talking about, costs and all those things, I have not really seen much of deliberate efforts from many initiatives in trying to include the people that cannot speak the English or the language that the internet uses and which most of digital tools that we promote use. So I would love any of the panelists to, think about that and see how we can support more rural areas and people that have not gone to school to be able to be part of these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll finish with the gentleman over here. Mainly because of time, and I'll just allow the panelists to respond. The gentleman over there. Okay, sir, I've seen your hand as well. The microphone will come to you. We'll end with you.
Thank you so much. My name is Daniel Okero. I work for National Library of Uganda. I'm also a Standard Governance Forum Fellow. My question is, I'm forwarding it to Ms. Kutesa. Yeah, you've emphasized more on.
Just a bit louder so peace can get your question.
Okay, please. You've talked more about the gender gap, the gender imbalance, where more women are not having access to this. So my question is the private sector using the proper methodology to have women involved to avoid this risk of having a kind of war between men and women, a war against men? Because there are so many initiatives that have come up. Government has come up with a lot of initiatives like affirmative action. There are so many that are targeting women. But then we still have that gap where women are not having access to so many of these things. Do you think, as the private sector or even government, is there any method that government can use to get women more involved? You mentioned of technology, for example. Many men are involved, mostly because of the interest. Most men find it interesting to get in technology, and most women find it not interesting, I think. That's why you find a few women get involved in technology, men get involved more. Is there something that the government or the private sector can do more such that we avoid the aspect of really pinning men, that they are doing the worst to the women, but having women interested in some of the things?
All right. Thank you for that question. We'll finish with the gentleman over there.
Yes, maybe just to mention, the internet has made it possible to have some of us attend this forum from afar. So we'll be coordinating with Mr. Innocent for any questions for those online. But now let's have these that are here physically. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Odonkara Deogratius. I'm an internet user. I wanted to make a hint on the moderator's point of view. You said you were not able to access internet in some village 2 kilometers away from the road. Now, according that from the telecom point of view, it's basically because the telecom service provider that you are using at that site had their sites not broadcasting or transmitting voice. They were on transmitting data. They were only transmitting voice. Now, what caught my attention is there was an advert of Airtel. They were saying all their sites across the country were on 4G. That means everywhere, anywhere you are within the country, you are able to get data. But now it wasn't the case for your side. Now my question goes to UCC, the regulator of these companies. Can't you put a policy or a regulation on these companies, and you make in a way that if you're providing service, you put all these packages integrated in one? If you have a service here within Kampala or in Karamoja, why don't you also put data, you put voice and everything integrated in one, and you broadcast, you transmit? Thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, let's have responses. I will start with
Gabriel.
Okay, yes,
if you
the people
permit
online.
me,
Yes.
let's have one question
Pardon?
from our colleague. One question from a colleague online, if you permit me.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Innocent will read for us. Yeah, that is the internet we have. So much to be done. As he's getting it, we can proceed.
All right, thank you very much. Reminds me many times when we're in meetings, international meetings, and it's time for the Ugandan to present. They usually give a disclaimer. Please understand when the person drops off the call, just stay, they will come back on. Or we start by saying, I am sorry, my internet is shaky right now. so I can't put my video on. Mr. Ssempala.
Thank you. Thank you indeed very much. You literally can see that we still have to grapple with durability or connectivity right from within here. And this speaks to many issues outside there. But for me, what comes out from the audience is the issues of affordability, issues of penetration that is rich within the countryside, and then issues of content. Yeah, so for the regulators and for government with how to attract and connect it, then sustainable use of these platforms in a state that does not create any fear of reprisals. So people are really gainfully and they're gainfully engaged, but also enjoying the practice. Like we make it home to enjoy the different digital platforms. Of course, with this strict regulation on the negative effects of the same, because globally the world is grappling with such. It's one thing to have the platforms and use them, but then the negative bit has to be handled with a lot of care and sensitivity for this matter, so that we interest many people to remain digitally active.
All right.
Thank you.
And just before you pass the mic, your parting GF 2022, even as we have this conversation.
Digging out the perspectives of the prospective on users is extremely important, such that as we plan for the future, we know what they make of the existing platforms in terms of now costs. Will agree with me, we need to cut down the costs of usage, and also doing a lot of literacy around them. Literacy is very key. She made mention of a very important issue. How about if you do not know English? You press. Before you know it all, you run into somebody, a technical person, to say, my gadgets are not working anymore. Yet you imprisoned yourself. So there should be diversification in options for the users that align. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you very much. I think literacy. So a lot of educated, they can't use the internet devices. So in a lot of the projects, we either ignore these people who cannot read and write, or just maybe assume they don't know anything. We were working with an organization that was implementing a MyKatale app. The surprising thing was that these women could actually use the app. And on a personal level, I realized that my staff at home are uneducated. But I did not realize it until recently when I told them to write down like handwritten notes, and they told me that they can always like assume that they can read and write. So we need to disabuse ourselves of the notion that if somebody is uneducated, they're unable to use the device. So that when we plan for their use of technology, we either leave them out or assume they don't understand it. Just like in the school, there are those people who are brighter and of course who are not as bright. We approach each individual differently. However, that said, there's ways around doing that. One of the organizations we work with is doing a project, a digitalization project with fishing villages, of course, in this interested. So what we are doing is nominate digital champions. These are the people who do for them the digital part of the work and come down and explain it to them. And of course, translating the material into the local languages. training in the local languages. That way, that where we're not leaving out people because of the language part of it. Because language and relevance is a big barrier in digital access. So we can do that if we localize our content and also make it relevant. So we went down to the village circles. We made it in such a way that they know that they have to use the digital products because they have to upload their circle information. And that is how the circle gets loans for it to loan down to members so they can buy boats, they can buy fishing nets. So relevance is very, very important when you're dealing with people who you assume are uneducated and therefore unable to use the digital technologies. So that way you create interest. Then there was a question about men and women. A lot of times when there's an initiative for women, helping women get access to technology, it looks like, oh, you guys, the men are suppressing us, you're preventing us from doing this and that. Unfortunately, a lot of times it comes down to the way the message is given out to the public. So the UN had this initiative called He for She, where we had male champions for women. And at Zimba Women, we realized Zimba men are advocates of Zimba Women products. So when we are training women, we'll have male trainers. When we have a mentorship program, our mentorship program is online. We'll have, among those mentors, there will be men, because we have women who specifically ask, I want a successful person in this kind of business. And maybe either the numbers are not that many of women in that business, or we just have men who are willing to share information. So in the in inclusion, we need to not ignore the fact that the people at a more successful level can also play an impact in bringing out the others. My friends and I joke, like, you're not going to prosper and leave your village behind. So those people at the top are the ones who are going to be the champions to help the ones at the bottom. So men play a very important role, not just in deciding the policies, but in for the villages, what they usually use, because many times the minutes they're going to tell you to leave your marriage and get money to distribute maybe computers or invite women to come and use computers. You invite men among those women so that it doesn't look like we're planning something secretive that we don't want them to be included in.
Thank you. You're parting short.
Parting short. As far as inclusion is concerned, it's a joint effort. It shouldn't look like one part against the other. So that's governments, that's businesses, that the people in putting in place the infrastructure to give us access to the internet. We need all of us to work together, not just like blame the government. The government is not doing enough. What are you as an individual doing? Yes, you have the internet, but are you encouraging others to use it? Are you sharing this information? Are you making it seem like this is not something to fear? I taught my parents how to use the internet and everything. So if each one of us were making a conscious effort to teach others, then one by one will also be a part of this. So you don't feel like, hey, government is the Tuyamba, or maybe the UN is focusing on government and also big organizations. Each one of us has a role to play because we are accountable to each other. And yeah, and of course, it's very important for the regulations in place to protect the users, not just from cyberbullying and information sharing, but also giving people the confidence to use this these platforms available. If I don't know where Jumia is taking my information, I could be there, even as an IT person, I could say, oh, are they selling my data? Maybe, you know, the in the open, they have an e-platform, but in the back end, they're selling our data to other people, because it's not until we started an e-commerce platform that we realized how much information you have about people. You have home addresses, telephone numbers. This information can be used by anybody if it lands in the wrong hands. So there needs to be like regulations in place protecting people, and also making sure that these organizations which have access to this are using our information ethically.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And there will be further conversations about that later on during this forum. So there will be another panel that will focus on that. Japheth?
Thank you for the questions. I think my colleagues have spoken ably on most of them. I just want to respond to about government being the biggest spender and also how we can work with the private sector and startups. And I think we already alluded to some of it. When there's a problem, it's easy to look at only what's not happening. But there's a lot of progress that has been made, setting up the BPO council to tap into opportunities to create skills for young people to outsource the work they can do beyond Uganda, set up the Ministry of ICT hub in Akawa, and so many different examples. But I also see these as the foundational initiatives that have been taken. A big push that will also lead to a role that I know government is already looking to play is on policy. As I indicated, right now we are working on a startup act with the Ministry of Trade to ensure that the policy environment is enabling enough for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and protects them to at least start and begin to grow their enterprise. And we also need to learn to stop looking at government as the big fixer, because the more we look at them for solutions, then the government cannot solve all the problems that we have as communities. Our tone is changing from asking government to be a fixer to be a maker of markets, de-risk the people who are playing into different spaces, recognize them, recommend the work they're doing to other people that can eventually support them. Also, like the young man suggested, allowing a certain level of procurement opportunities, for local solutions will get the companies going. I think for me, my parting shots is especially targeting the young people in the room. Normally we come to conversations like these, attend panels like that, but I want you to begin taking notice that especially questions that come from the audience, everyone is asking how. I think for me, be that young person who's different from the audience, and instead of asking how, begin to understand how you can be the one to solve that problem that you have identified. How can you translate your passion? Because everybody asks questions they are passionate about. So how can you be the one to translate that question you're asking or that opportunity that you've seen into a venture, into a business opportunity, into something you can actually solve for sustainably? And once you begin thinking like that, then you begin becoming a typical entrepreneur. And, those are the people who are building the companies for the day. So my encouragement, my invitation is, let's stop going to rooms like this and asking how. Let's instead begin to translate the questions we have into possible companies we could be building that are solving problems we care about. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So other than ask us how, ask yourself how you can solve the problem. Michael?
Thank you very much. Indeed, my co-panelists have spoken to many of the questions rather asked. The issue of content is a global issue, really. Even in very developed countries, they grapple with the issue of content on social media. But again, I think it's Sike who said earlier, it's about us teaching our people to draw value from the content that we are putting out there. If I'm going to spend a whole day abusing Iguma on the internet, as opposed to me putting out content that is probably telling people how to propagate seeds, now we're going in a rainy season, whatever it is really, that is adding value. Yes, the money comes at the end of that, but at least you're putting out value to someone that someone can be able to use. In terms of, there was an issue on, there was a question on the private sector and government. I think Japheth has spoken to that ably. I'll not get into that. But also the other is in terms of literacy and also social issues within our communities, that there are communities where, say, for instance, husbands will not allow their wives to be on the internet, or for instance, if they're holding a Zoom call, they don't want you to put your face on the screen, and so on and so forth. So we have to probably also deal with those issues as well. But also to tailor issues, rather to tailor solutions that speak to our communities. In communities where, say, internet is an issue, instead of using an application that is using internet, maybe I should use one that uses USSD codes to some of these applications, not just for people who are physically challenged, but also people who are semi-literate, that instead of, say, reading, maybe I can tap a picture that speaks to an action I'm supposed to be making on a certain app. So to also add those technologies in the background in recognition of the different levels of understanding and literacy within our communities will probably go a long way. In terms of affordability of platforms and devices, I think one of the things that government has been deliberate about is to liberalize the telecom sector. And why that is so that we put away the monopoly of one player offering a service at a fee that they interventions in different places that are speaking to issues of access and affordability. Of course, the other one was the issue of security and safety of these applications, and there are also different interventions. The one that we've done is we have put in place a digital financial services lab, where our brothers in the fintech industry are able to come to the lab and test the application to ensure that they don't have backdoors or malware transactions. So there are different interventions really that we can speak to in terms of this. My parting shots, digital inclusion, I think, has so many different gears and bolts moving. Yeah, we cannot just speak to addressing just one of those, but all of us are players in addressing the different gears and bringing our value to the table so that we're all moving as one.
Michael Bamwesigye from UCC, CK Japheth from Innovation Village, Peace Kutesa, Zimba Women Uganda, Robert Ssempala, Human Rights Network for Journalists. Thank you very much for being a part of this high-level panel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your contribution to this discussion. And we've been challenged to stop asking how and to actually ask ourselves that question and come up with solutions. Thank you very much. I would like now to hand back to the MC.